Imagine waking up one morning and turning on the news to discover something unprecedented. Every nation on Earth has officially dissolved its individual sovereignty. No more United States, no more China, no more France or Brazil. From this day forward, we are all citizens of a single unified global state. No flags, no borders, no separate leaders. Just one Earth, one government, one people. Sounds like science fiction, right? But what would happen if all countries truly united as one? Let's rewind and ask, how would this even begin? Well, history shows us that unity often arises in times of crisis. Think about World War II. The devastation led to the formation of the United Nations. Now imagine a threat even bigger than war. An impending environmental collapse, an alien signal received from deep space, or an AI that demands human cooperation to avoid extinction. In such scenarios, world leaders might have no choice but to dissolve nationalistic barriers for survival. Desperation breeds cooperation. Perhaps a global emergency accord would be signed, dissolving all borders and forming a single planetary government. At first glance, this might sound like a utopian dream. No more war between nations. No more visa restrictions. Everyone having equal rights regardless of where they were born. Just imagine the possibilities. Free movement, equalized healthcare, shared education systems, and collective problem-solving on a global scale. It's easy to romanticize this vision. But let's not forget, creating a global government would come with titanic logistical and ethical challenges. Let's start with governance. How would decisions be made? Would every person get one vote in a global election? Would population-heavy regions like India or China dominate global politics through sheer numbers? Would minorities have their voices silenced in the name of global majority rule? Or would it resemble a tiered structure like the United Nations General Assembly, only far more powerful? Establishing a fair and representative system that respects both individuality and unity would be a monumental task. Then there's the issue of language and communication. Would we adopt a single official global language like English, Mandarin, or even something entirely new? Or would translation technology become advanced enough that language barriers cease to matter? This might sound minor, but cultural identity is often tied to language. Forcing one language could cause resistance, even rebellion. Alternatively, maintaining all languages equally could slow down governance, education, and public systems. Economically, unifying the globe would mean erasing all current currencies in favor of a single global currency. Think World Coin or Earth Credit. This could theoretically eliminate unfair currency exchange rates and help developing nations catch up. But it also raises questions about wealth redistribution. Would rich nations willingly share their resources to raise global standards? How would taxation work? And who would control the global central bank? On a social level, nationalism, for better or worse, gives people a sense of belonging. Removing that might lead to an identity crisis. If you're no longer American, Turkish, or Nigerian, then who are you? Just a human? That sounds inspiring, but it may also lead to cultural erasure. People might resist the loss of their national traditions, festivals, and local pride. If unity is enforced too strongly, it could ignite new forms of resistance. Not between countries, but between cultural blocs or ideologies. Environmental policy under one world government could be incredibly effective. Imagine a single climate policy universally enforced. We could finally coordinate massive reforestation efforts, ocean cleanups, and green energy deployment without bureaucratic delays between nations. But enforcement would be key. What if certain regions refuse to follow rules? Would the global government use military force against its own people? Would dissenters be labeled traitors to Earth? And let's not forget the darker side. Who leads this new world? What if it's not democratic? What if it's a technocratic elite, or worse, a corporate-led oligarchy? One government with unchecked power could be the ultimate dystopia. Surveillance could reach a level where privacy no longer exists. Dissent could be crushed under the pretense of unity. History tells us that power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely. Would a global regime be more fair? Or just more efficient at oppression? Now let me throw this back to you, the viewer. Backhand index pointing right. If the world united under one government, do you think humanity would become more peaceful and advanced? Or would we lose our cultural identities and freedoms? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. This topic deserves a real discussion. And hey, if this blew your mind, hit that like button and subscribe for more What If? deep dives that explore the edges of imagination and reality. If the physical borders between nations were to vanish overnight, what would become of the invisible lines that define us? Borders may divide lands, but it is culture, religion, and identity that truly shape human experience. In Part 1, we explored the logistical birth of a unified global government. Now let's take a deep dive into what happens when cultures collide. Not in war, but in unity. First, let's talk about culture. Every nation has a unique rhythm, music, fashion, food, traditions, and customs that give its people a sense of place. In a unified world, cultures would be more exposed than ever before. Imagine a world where Oktoberfest, Chinese New Year, Diwali, and Carnival are celebrated globally. This could be a beautiful explosion of shared experience. But here's the twist. While some traditions might go viral, others might fade into obscurity. Global popularity often comes at the cost of local authenticity. Will we preserve every tradition, or will a few global trends dominate the world stage, creating a homogenized monoculture? Now let's zoom in on religion. If there's one thing history has taught us, it's that religion and politics are deeply intertwined. In a single global government, what role would religion play? Would the state adopt complete secularism, or would it recognize and support all major religions equally? That might sound fair in theory, but in practice tensions would flare. How do you fund or manage public religious holidays when every faith wants recognition? And how do you avoid favoritism when some religions have billions of followers and others only thousands? Even more, religious laws might clash with global policies on gender equality, LGBTQ+ rights, science, and education. Would a global government override religious freedoms to enforce a standardized code of ethics? One possible outcome could be a rise in spirituality over organized religion. Without national religious institutions, people might lean more into personal beliefs and universal values. We might see the emergence of global interfaith councils, merging the moral philosophies of many religions into a new age ethical system. On the flip side, some groups could radicalize, rejecting the global government altogether, leading to new conflicts, not between nations but between ideologies. Next, we arrive at language, a subtle but powerful identity marker. In a borderless world, how would we speak to each other? Would we all be expected to learn one global language? English might be a default choice due to its current global use, but Mandarin, Spanish, or even a constructed language like Esperanto could be proposed. Some technologists suggest that AI-based real-time translation could solve the problem altogether. But here's the thing. Language isn't just a communication tool, it's culture embedded in words. If everyone stops speaking Swahili, Finnish, or Quechua, we don't just lose vocabulary, we lose poetry, history, and a unique worldview. Would people fight to preserve their languages or slowly let them fade? Let's shift to education and media. In a globally unified world, children could be taught a standardized curriculum. No more national myths or biased history lessons. Imagine learning a shared story of humanity, our scientific achievements, cultural legacies, and collective struggles. That sounds hopeful, right? But who writes this curriculum? Who decides which events are emphasized and which are downplayed? Propaganda is a powerful tool, and a single narrative can easily become a weapon for mass influence. Would people trust the new global education, or would underground schools emerge to preserve alternative viewpoints? The same dilemma applies to global media. Today, media is already dominated by a handful of global companies. In a world with no borders, we might see the rise of one or two centralized platforms controlling all entertainment and news. Imagine a global tube or One World News. While this could ensure equal access to information, it could also lead to censorship, manipulation, and information overload. In contrast, local media might become a form of resistance, preserving regional voices in a sea of global content. Now let's talk about migration and identity. With no borders, anyone can live anywhere. Sounds amazing, until everyone wants to move to the same cities or climates. Would we see a mass migration to coastal metropolises or regions with ideal living conditions? How would housing, food, and infrastructure keep up? Cultural clashes could become hyperlocal, not between foreigners and citizens, but between neighbors with totally different lifestyles. Would communities form microcultures to protect their way of life? Or would we witness a new golden age of integration and coexistence? And then comes the question of representation. In this unified world, how do you make sure everyone feels seen? If cultural festivals are replaced by Earth Day or global traditions, will smaller groups feel erased? Would new platforms emerge to give space to indigenous voices, minority groups, and niche traditions? This could be a chance to finally give equal footing to communities long ignored. Or it could be the moment they disappear completely. Now here's where I want to hear from you, the audience. Globe showing Europe Africa, do you think a single global culture would bring peace, or erase the beauty of diversity? Drop your opinions in the comments. I want to know what you value more, unity or identity. And don't forget to smash that like button if you're enjoying this deep dive. It really helps the channel grow and tells us what kind of content to explore next. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore how economies would function in this one-world society, and what happens to power, class, and control. With a single global government and a unified human race, perhaps the most pressing question becomes, how would the global economy work? And more importantly, who would truly be in control? The first challenge would be establishing a single global currency. Whether it's a rebranded digital currency or a new physical one, it would require complete synchronization of monetary policies, taxation, and fiscal planning. Today, economic power is highly uneven. Developed countries hold most of the wealth while others struggle with debt and basic infrastructure. In a one-world system, redistribution of wealth might be necessary to level the playing field. But this idea is politically explosive. Would the wealthy nations agree to share their resources? Or would the powerful corporations, many already larger than nations, lobby to protect their own interests? Speaking of corporations, in a borderless world, multinational businesses would become more powerful than ever. With no regulatory barriers, mega conglomerates could stretch their influence across the entire planet. Think of a world where a handful of companies control not only commerce and data, but transportation, food, and even governance. This raises serious ethical questions. Would we be living in a corporate utopia or a digital dictatorship? What checks and balances could possibly exist in such a massive system? One proposed solution is decentralization through blockchain and Web3 technologies. With transparent systems, smart contracts, and decentralized finance, DeFi, people could have more say in how resources are used. Imagine voting on how taxes are spent through a blockchain referendum. Sounds ideal, but also comes with massive risks. Technology can be manipulated, and cybersecurity becomes a global vulnerability. One cyber attack on the wrong node and the whole system could collapse. Could humanity build a financial system so vast, yet so stable that it functions without collapse? Then there's the matter of jobs and automation. In a unified global economy, competition wouldn't be between companies in different countries, but between humans and machines. With AI rapidly advancing, most manual and analytical jobs could be automated. That leaves billions of people without work. Would the global government implement Universal Basic Income (UBI)? Would people be freed from the labor market to pursue passion, art, and innovation? Or would unemployment lead to mass unrest and inequality on a scale never seen before? And let's not forget class and privilege. Even in a single government, power will always concentrate somewhere. Elites will emerge and social hierarchies may become more rigid, not less. Without nationalism to rally behind, will class consciousness replace patriotism? Imagine protests not against a president or a party, but against the entire global system. If there's only one government, one currency, one power, then rebellion isn't a matter of politics, it's a matter of revolution. This brings us to freedom. Would a world government ensure universal rights and equality, or would it gradually morph into an Orwellian regime, monitoring every citizen under the guise of peace? Without competing nations, whistleblowers and political dissidents would have nowhere to flee. The global internet could be censored, surveillance normalized, and dissent criminalized. Is a peaceful world worth the price of absolute control? However, not everything is bleak. A united world might finally allow us to focus on existential threats that transcend borders. Climate change, pandemics, asteroid impacts, and interstellar exploration. With our resources pooled and minds aligned, we could build a civilization capable of reaching beyond Earth, colonizing Mars, harnessing solar energy, and possibly even meeting other intelligent life. Could a one-world Earth be the first step toward becoming a Type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale? Let's take a moment and reflect, dear viewer. Globe with Meridians, would you trade national identity for global peace? Would you give up individual freedom for security and unity? Comment your thoughts below. I want to hear if you think this world is a utopia, dystopia, or something in between. If you've enjoyed this thought experiment, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more deep dives into alternate realities and what-if scenarios. The next episode might just explore, what if Earth joined a galactic federation? Alien. Thank you for watching. Until next time, keep questioning, keep imagining, and keep wondering.